countless lives by offering crucial information to emergency personnel. From campus-wide lockdowns, safety alerts, messages, and site-specific emergency documentation and security, Titan HST's platform is suitable for a variety of situations. That's why I've invited founder and CEO Vic Merjanian, yes, to join us to share this their comprehensive emergency alert system and how he's taking strides to provide safety for others. Vic, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us here today.
It's great. Let's start very simply. Can you tell me an interesting story about your professional path to right where we are today?
Absolutely. You know, we came into this area of the sector and this market sector because we wanted to help people. And the thing that we noticed is everywhere you go these days, whether you're going holiday shopping or you're going to the mall or you got kids, whatever it is, people need a way to stay safe, right? Go about their daily lives and stay safe. And so we wanted to come into something where we could empower people so that people like you and I can go and do whatever we want to do, anytime we want to do it.
Right.
And have safety and security in the palm of our hand.
Okay.
You already date from your palm of your hand. You got these apps. You order food from these apps. Why can't you get safety and security?
I listen to my music. I see the pictures of my granddaughter. I mean, that's
our world, right?
Everything is in that.
Everything's in there.
Everything's in that.
Yeah.
So how long ago did you have this realization?
So we started this about 4 or 5 years ago, and we did a beta pilot program locally.
Okay.
And it went so well that we had a queue lined up for people wanting to get into the system. So we accelerated things and we said, all right, let's get this pilot wrapped up. Let's get the beta wrapped up. And we exploded a couple of years ago. So we've been adding about 1 million users a year since then. And, doing our best to keep up with demand. And
how big is the market, do you think?
The market is in the U.S. alone, it's about 220 million users.
Wow.
And
two-thirds of the population?
About two-thirds of the if you think about it, you've got people who are too young to have a mobile device.
Yes.
And then you've got some people on the far end, the mobile flip phone.
Yeah, nobody here in the studio. We're all very technology literate, but I understand.
But everyone else, is viable. And you're looking at a market segment that is estimated to be $80 billion by 2021.
Wow. So the entrepreneur in you got excited about this idea then, huh?
Indeed.
Okay. And when you use the term we, who do you refer to?
So I'm referring to my team. We've got a great group of technical engineers and then also industry insiders. We've got the former California Secretary of Education on our team, the longest serving school resource officer in the state. And so we started out from the educational market.
Right.
And then it exploded from there because, if you take a look at it, who are students and parents? It's the key sector of any given community, right?
Right.
So it's only natural from there that when they're outside of those educational sectors, they also want to use the product.
So I enjoy when I have entrepreneurs like you on the show who have what I think are macroeconomic trends that are pushing them, because that's always very helpful to have tailwinds, to suggest that. And unfortunately, some of the stuff that's happened in schools and in malls and in other places that make us aware that we need to be aware of our own safety.
There's a new normal.
Right. And then just these emergencies that have happened, whether it be floods or fires, or there's a need for two-way communications in emergencies,
that's the thing,
right?
Because what's on the market is mostly one-way. And if you look at the statistics, 2/3 of emergencies end before help arrives. So it's up to you to figure out what to do.
Wow.
So all of a sudden that app with some instruction doesn't sound so bad, right?
Right. So tell me about, we only have a few minutes here on Critical Mass Radio Show, Vic, but at a high level, what is it that your app does?
So what we do is we empower individuals with emergency two-way communication. And so we've got two-way communication, we've got one-touch lockdowns, broadcasts, but the most relevant, let's talk about the fires, let's talk about the floods.
Yes.
And what we're doing is we have implemented and patented our deployment of augmented reality. So you can screen through and pick up your phone like a camera and pan across a mountainside. Or if in a flooded area, you can look through buildings and see where people are trapped in their attics.
Oh my God.
And you know where to send help and how to find them.
Okay, so we're talking to a national audience, if not an international audience, but I also program for Southern California, which I lead a learning community of CEOs and business owners, right? Peer groups, mastermind groups. And one of the things that we've been talking about caused by the fires and flooding is what happens if in Southern California there's an earthquake and you have people who are your responsibility who are stranded at your site who really don't want to be there, right?
Yes.
Where do they want to be? They want to be with their loved ones, or at least finding out if their loved ones are okay.
Absolutely.
Is your product appropriate in that application?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the specific use scenario you bring up is interesting because that's what got us in contact with the European Commission. After they had, it wasn't earthquakes there, but it was similarly a natural disaster and then also a terrorist attack that they had,
Right.
and they couldn't find their loved ones. And they said there's got to be a better way. So with our system, it works over cellular, Wi-Fi, LAN, so we created redundant connectivity. So
Okay.
that's exactly what you can do. The power of people. You can find your loved ones, and emergency responders can find you.
So, again, we're not going to get too technical here
Sure.
because, whatever, but I'm curious as to how does this work when you hear stories about in emergencies, cellular systems don't function?
Right.
Well, how do you tell me how you work around that?
So the easiest way to describe this, the high level of this,
Yeah,
is to
that's what I want,
basically
yeah.
to basically say that the more channels of communication you have, the higher the likelihood that
Makes
one gets
sense.
through.
Right.
It's like if you're driving off-roading, it's always good to have a couple spare tires, right?
Right.
And so if you've got some spare tires and your tires also happen to be run flats, well, then it's going to take a lot more to knock you out.
Right.
And that's what we've done. We've built multiple channels in.
Okay. And the product is specifically an app?
It's a multi-platform system. So
Okay.
it's an app first,
Okay.
but it's also accessible via web, text message, email, phone calls, etc. So if we can't get in touch with you, you better get on your knees and pray because there's no one else. Or use that carrier pigeon you got, because
Right. Well,
that's what you're looking at.
I used to work in Los Angeles, and we're off subject here a little bit, but during the riots.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and it was like the city was on fire. It felt like helicopters, flames, smoke, chaos. And I lived in Orange County. And frankly, all I wanted to do was get home to my wife and children.
Absolutely.
Right? And be able to make sure they were okay. I knew they were in Orange County, so they're probably okay. But the need to, in an emergency, to touch base with the people that you care about is almost overwhelming.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like you've developed a product that can help that.
That's exactly what we do. We help you find the people you love, and we help you communicate to others that you're safe or not safe. And it's, in a nutshell, it's a level of situational awareness that
Yes.
doesn't exist without this.
Right.
And that's the thing, I've been to these active shooter drills, and these are drills, mind you, right? So no one's actually going to shoot you.
Right.
And the level of anxiety is palpable. So imagine in a real emergency, just knowing that your loved ones know that you're safe, or that they're safe, or
Right.
that help is on the way. There's a peace of mind that comes from that outside of that doesn't exist.
Well, I have a business conference that we always have in November in Las Vegas, and we do it at a certain hotel there. And the business executives that I'm meeting with actually had a pause for a minute based on the recent events in Las Vegas.
Absolutely.
Do we want to go back?
Absolutely.
And so, we had to really think about it. Not that it's going to happen twice there, but that would be another case where your application would have been very helpful.
And that's the thing. We had people from our office whose brother and wife were there. They were hiding in a balcony, and they had called her, asking her to turn on the news and see if the shooting had stopped.
Wow.
With our system, we could have pushed out mass emergency notifications and then pulled the population to know where they are and if they're safe or not. So the 911 responders, we're hearing stories. Again, we've got fantastic police who've been trained. They know what to do. But they can't see through walls, right?
Right.
So imagine if we could give them Superman vision and help them find the people that they're going to help. Imagine how powerful that would be.
Right, because it's a matter of moments and seconds sometimes in
thing.
those emergencies, right?
Exactly.
And knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
All right. Well, we're going to take our first and only break here, ladies and gentlemen. 10 minutes just went by that quickly. We're going to come back with Vic, and we're going to talk more about the business. There's a lot we're going to get not to cover, but some we're going to. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back after this short 30-second commercial from me.
Richard Franzi is the author of 2 popular business books for CEOs. His first book, Critical Mass, The 10 Explosive Powers of CEO Peer Groups, was the first book ever written on the secret value of CEO peer groups. His second book, now with newly updated information, is Critical Mass, The Power of CEO Guiding Principles. Richard's books contain powerful information to help CEOs running middle market companies gain valuable insight to improve their decision-making skills. Richard's books are available as paperbacks or Kindle versions from Amazon.com. To find them, type Richard Franzi in the search box.
And welcome back to this edition of Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast. I am your host, Richard Franzi. All of our shows can be heard anytime on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, several hundred former guest websites whose CEOs have been on our show. Since 2009, when we first started broadcasting this show here on octalkradio.net, we've reached hundreds of thousands of listeners with the message over our live stream, podcast, YouTube channel, Facebook, etc. Simply type in Critical Mass Radio Show in your favorite podcasting software. to find our weekly shows. If you would like to subscribe, go to our website, the bottom of any page, Critical Mass Radio Show, Critical Mass for Business, at the bottom of Critical Mass for Business. You can put in your email address, and we'll be happy to start getting your newsletter to you each week. We do nothing else with your email but put you in our newsletter. All right, Vic. Vic is the founder and CEO of Titan Health and Security Technologies, Titan HST. We've been talking about two-way emergency communication, and I wanted to talk to you about the details of what's called Next Gen 911 system. Like the name.
Thank you.
Give us some meat around the name.
So here's the deal. We've got fantastic people trained in dispatch. We have amazing law enforcement, EMS, fire, etc., right? But there's a fundamental crux with 911 and 911 systems. When you call in, there's only so many dispatch operators. Capacity. And the other problem is it's one way. You're calling in, but the person standing next to you has no idea what's going on, right? If someone is being shot next to you, wouldn't you like to know?
Yes.
And so I would. Yes. and so our goal with this next gen 911 system is to supplement and enhance and supercharge existing 911 systems by increasing capacity and reducing response time and information dissemination.
Okay, so how do you do that?
You know, the way we do that is by getting more information in an organized fashion in to the dispatch centers. So you've got GPS location without needing expensive hardware no one can afford. You've got two-way video, audio calling, even when cell networks are down. And then when your police officers and fire and EMS, they're responding, they know exactly where to go to, and they can scan through a building, even the elevation, and find the floor that you're on. And so you're reducing that response time.
And this is all your enabling technology on the hardware platform being your smartphone.
Being the smartphone, so you don't need any hardware that you don't already have.
Because all these features you talked about, GPS, camera, they're all in there.
That's the
beauty
of it.
You're just bringing it all together.
Exactly. Same thing with the 911 dispatch centers. They've got computers. Why would you go and spend millions of dollars on hardware that no one can afford, when with a software solution you can utilize the hardware you already have?
Right, and software, you can roll revs and updates.
And that's the thing. We update every 2 weeks.
So your infrastructure is always
up to date.
Always up to date.
Yeah.
And so you said you're adding 1 million users
per year.
Yes. That seems like a lot of people to bring into a company and get them set up. How have you been able to scale the back end of your business to meet the demand?
So 2 words. One is magic, and the other is syncing. So basically what we've done is most of these organizations, they've already got Active Directory databases.
Okay.
So think of it, you're a business. You've got an HR department, or you've got an IT department. All we do is sync with it. So the sites don't have to do anything to get in. One click, and we've got the synced data.
So because they already have the phone numbers and all the information,
exactly.
You're just bringing it into your database.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's how large-scale implementations. Is that where the 1 million users are coming from?
The 1 million users are coming primarily right now from organizations, because these organizations call us and they say we have 20,000 people or 50,000 people or 150,000 people, and we don't know how to keep track of them in an emergency.
Right.
And we say, well, with one click, we can help you manage those people.
Right. With the assumption they have a smartphone.
You know what? In a perfect world, they'd have a smartphone, and that enables you to have all those smart features.
Okay.
But if you don't have a smartphone, you can still receive the text messages and broadcasts, so we'll meet you where you're at.
Okay. Through what device then?
Whatever they have, a flip phone,
Okay. So if
it's...
if someone who still has older technology, but still has some basic technology.
We'll send you as much information as we can, and when you can't get anything more on that device, then chuck it at the perp and use that as a, as an old school mechanism.
Not to be too technical, but how does your system know whether I have a smartphone or a flip phone?
So the way that works is if you've installed the app, then we know that you've got a smartphone.
Okay.
And if you don't have the app,
then we just assume it's the lowest common denominator kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
All right. And how do businesses, when you say organizations,
Sure.
I'm thinking of schools, I'm thinking of large-scale organizations.
Yes.
I don't know that I'm thinking of companies. Are they companies as well?
Absolutely. We have some of the largest companies in the country who are actually contracted with us, and I'll tell you where their driving point's coming from.
Okay.
As a business owner, as a CEO, you're always worried about liability exposure.
You read my mind. I was just going to ask you.
Right?
Right.
And so these sites
Being
are saying,
CEO,
these sites are saying, look, we're worried about active shooter. We're worried about all this other stuff. But day to day, it's the medical emergencies and work comp injuries that bankrupt companies.
Right.
So with our system, you can tag whenever you've got an emergency, and now you've got a time-stamped, GPS located, emergency of, hey, is this a legitimate work comp claim or is it not?
Right.
So you know exactly what's going on.
Well, I think also speaking to business owners who are probably listening today to the radio show or whenever as a podcast, the reality is you want to do everything you can to help your people.
Absolutely.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
But should you have a time where it's being contested, the fact that you made the investment in this type of product technology demonstrates a goodwill factor, I think, on
Absolutely.
the company that would help them as well.
And let's talk about helping the employees there for a moment. You know, again, the system is mostly picked up for this active shooter theory, right? And that's what people are afraid of. But 40 to 45% of the use of the system is medical emergencies. So imagine your employee, you've got your top employee and they've fallen or they've injured. We had a site where they broke their ankle and they had to crawl to find help. With Titan, you could have video medicined in a doctor directly to them and told them help is on the way.
Right.
Elevate the ankle.
Here's what you need to do.
Hang tight.
Yeah, hang tight.
Yeah.
Wow, how comforting that would be
Right?
as well.
Because
Right.
I don't trust myself to patch my own ankle, let alone someone else.
Right. And when you experience something you've never experienced before, it's nice to talk to people who have seen that before.
Exactly.
Right? Because a lot of you can do the wrong thing, thinking you're doing the
You
right
can-
thing. Right?
Absolutely.
Right. And I think active shooter is a very emotional
Yes.
situation. But I think the more real world are the slips and falls and the things that happen every
Medical,
day.
yeah.
But again, for those in Southern California, I don't want it to happen, but someday, God forbid, a major earthquake may happen.
Yeah.
And people can get hurt.
You know what? Absolutely. And you always think it's not going to happen, but then it does, right?
Right.
I mean, the hill next to my house burned down 2 weeks
Did
ago.
it? Sorry
I
to
mean,
hear
nobody
that.
thought that would happen, right?
Right.
And so these earthquakes.
And it happened fast, too, right?
Yeah, minutes. The whole hill is gone, you
Right.
know? So that's the thing. It's when you're prepared, then you
Right.
can minimize kind of the catastrophe.
So watching the fires and hearing the floods and from earlier this year with the hurricanes, Deborah and I, my wife, is like, we need to look at our earthquake preparedness,
Yes.
right? Let's go
Yes.
look at that thing. What is the last time we changed out the water?
Yes.
And how do we actually go and get that? And one of the things that we were talking about is how do we reach our kids?
Yes.
Because we have children who live out of their adults, and they have
Right.
one of them has a child. I mean, my concern is once I'm sure Deborah and I are safe, is okay. What about my kids?
So here's what you do. Imagine the old school way of trying to call them when the landlines or cell phone networks are
Can't reach 'em,
overloaded.
right.
Can't reach them. Or with our system, you could stand wherever you are, pivot 360 degrees while holding your camera up, scan your whole city and see exactly where your kids are,
Oh my
where your
God.
grandkids are, and if they're safe or not safe.
So can we talk a little bit about the pricing model? Or How do
Absolutely.
you license this technology?
So we license it out per user.
Okay.
And the pricing is flexible depending on the site, the number of users, there's volume discounts, etc.
Sure.
But basically, for a fraction of what people are paying for hardware-based systems, we're able to not only bring safety that doesn't exist,
Right.
but also reduce insurance premiums and become revenue generating for these sites.
How does it reduce insurance premiums?
So by having certain factors that our system has that is able to both annotate the emergencies that occur as well as reduce response time and provide emergency documentation, insurance premiums can be reduced
Wow.
using a system
well,
like
that's
ours.
a cost offset then.
Well, I mean, look at that, right? As a CEO, wouldn't you like to have more safety, more uptime, and less expense?
Right. That's the icing on the cake. That
It's a
just helps
no-brainer.
make the decision financially feel better to the CFO.
Absolutely.
In addition to the HR department.
Exactly.
And hopefully the CEO as
Exactly.
well. Okay. So boy, we have like a minute left. What's the future hold for you?
The future is helping as many people as we can. We saved our first life within 20 minutes, and I'll tell you, there's nothing that comes like a high that comes when someone calls you and says, my kid's life was saved because of your system.
How'd
We're
that,
going to do more of that.
how'd that happen?
Someone tried to take their life, and the old system the school had would have taken a 14-minute response time. We had help there within 30 seconds, and they were able to dilute
30 seconds.
30 seconds. And we were able to dilute the substance the person had ingested, and we saved their life.
My gosh.
So I'd like to do more of that.
Of course you
'cause
will.
That feels good.
Right. Well, can I have you back?
Absolutely. We'd love to come back.
I want to come back and learn more as we didn't get a chance to talk about the business
Sure.
of this business.
Part 2.
Right. I want to get behind the scenes and understand as an entrepreneur where you're going with this
Absolutely.
and the technology and your exit strategy if you have one or whatever
Absolutely.
you're going to be doing. So,
Thank you for having us.
Vic, this was great. Vic Merjanian, this was outstanding to talk about your company. If someone wants to learn more about it, how do they find you online?
Find us online, titanhst.com.
Spell that. All of it.
www.titanhst.com.
Thank you for giving of your time. A friend of the program and a part of the critical mass community.
Thank you so much for having us.
Our pleasure. All right, I'd like to thank our engineer for today, none other than Paul Roberts. Our producers are 3 strong, Joan Park, Crystal Nunley, and Haley Stern. If you'd like to connect with me on my social media channels, my Twitter handle is CEO Peer Groups, P-E-E-P-E-R-G-R-O-U-P-S. LinkedIn and YouTube, I'm Richard Franzi, F-R-A-N-Z-I, and on Facebook or my website, criticalmass4forbusiness.com. Until the next show, I hope all of your business decisions will move your company in a positive direction.
You have been listening to Critical Mass Radio Show Business Talk Show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.